of lynchings, expresses a shared solution, in some ways, to people hateful of African people. Ida B. Wells Barnett does not share this hatred, but instead offers her love to Lee Walker in seeing his arrest as due. I do not wish to dwell on this topic out of respect for both ancestors, but this aspect of originalism should impress. I have overheard men speak of beating other men, or even women, especially for the sake of honor. Or say, children killing their parents for trifles like video games or other electronics. These are expressions of heightened hatred in our communities, symptomatic with Occidental tradition. It's worth dwelling, though, on the love of our culture, which peculiarly most manifests in the African woman to her children. To not dwell too long, it may appear that the most liberating figure in Occidental tradition is the African woman, simply because she is the fountain of love that otherwise has an absence in European society. It's an incredibly interesting notion. Though I shall repeat the conventional wisdom from when we were on auction blocks. Learned pens have written that no poetry has been as great as the pleas of African women whom will to remain by their children who are being sold away. So honest were these pleas that even otherwise hateful white men would touch with their roots, for originalism means what it means, and will themselves to not have the mother parted with her child. The saying, love conquers all, has its basis. Either way, knowing that love is the motivator for morality, we enable ourselves to benefit from the knowledge of morality when we love ourselves. Knobeco. Which benefit? Onitaset Kumat. Essentially, in knowing love, we would limit our behavior to love, for it has already been explained that as rational people, we are best being moral. This is ancient knowledge. In being moral, we aren't hateful. It is hatefulness which so harms us. This limitation of self-harm will be to our ultimate benefit. It's worth exploring how love would counter each of the aspects of Occidentalism. Let us begin with fear. Most importantly, in the arena of the divine. To act morally to God would be to honor God. Fearfulness of God has a hint of subterfuge, for truly God acts lovingly to us. And if God wills to punish, God punishes through love. So why should we fear God's love? We should embrace it. Outside of the divine, we also can see that many times Africans will purposely intimidate one another to control them. This form of intimidating people only makes us live by a code of fear, for we ultimately will fear ourselves and those like us. In replacing fear with love, the advantages are obvious. Hate needs not be discussed. But returning to the original inquiry, truthfully, Africans ought love everyone, whites included, yes, despite enslavement. The reality of it, however, is that love need not look differently from hate. So to speak, the punishment can be as severe. The only difference is that the punishment is done out of just deserts rather than, well, hatred. It's justice, not injustice. Jealousy has another interesting implication. Jealousy roots greed, and we know that greed inspires crime. With regard, love, poverty and wealth don't exist in an arena of love. For instance, typically, the African woman raises her household lovingly, especially with her children. Her children are never more rich than one another under the African woman's care. Jealousies still arrive, naturally, from outside, but this sample of love instructs on how love can solve crime, especially crimes of jealousy. The reasoning being that through love one shares rather than hoards, and prefers when others do well rather than poorly. Finally, for fun, we should discuss sex. It's poor that the African engaging in sex, in emulating the European, doesn't engage it from the perspective of doing right by the partner. Instead, sex is an activity centering around fun. This explains why people in Occidental culture can be so liberal with their sexual behaviorisms, and worse, find the behavior so self-serving. Loving sex can be found in the original tradition, of which tantric sex is a derivative. The issue, of course, with fun is how wasteful it is. Like sports watching, while not unethical, it's not ethical, it's not even rational. And that's the problem. A people should strive to be ethical, or at least rational. Hence, love will improve our lot. Knobeco. I see that. But what does this leave for an African to do? As you say, the quest for knowledge is the quest for instruction. Onitaset Kumat. Simply put, teach the people what love is and why love should be our inspiration. We were misled into believing we do not know what love is, though our mothers raise us with the knowledge, and we also mistook it to be nonviolent, peaceful, and accepting. A love punishes, but it punishes justly. It's necessary for our pursuit of justice to learn of love. Shem Hotep. Knobeco. Excellent conversation. African people should love everyone. Hotep.